Hi, James here from Adventure Bike Rider, and welcome to BMW's 2022 launch of its K1600 here in sunny-ish Spain. Now you join me on the highway. We left the hotel in Malaga about 10 minutes ago. Around 10 journalists on 10 K1600s with a ride leader and a couple of folks from BMW. And the aim of today is to get to grips with this premium big tourer. Now the eagle-eyed man, you may have spotted that we've got 4 different versions of this bike being ridden today. Although if you manage to count all 4 from the view from my GoPro, then well, you deserve a house point or a gold star. So we have the standard version, which is probably the most stripped down model of the bike, although it's got an awful lot of technology, bells and whistles, and it's a big comfortable tourer. That's called the GT. Then we've got the GTL, which is basically the standard bike with a top box and backrest for a pillion. Then we have kind of a cool hipster version, which is called the Bagger. And that basically is sloped a little further down the back to give it kind of that Bagger kind of cruiser look, or just hint towards it. And then we have the bike that I'm riding, which I'm really pleased I got my hands on, the Grand America. Now the Grand America is the top of the range model, and it's kind of BMW's pinnacle of luxury comfort. So if you ride regularly with a passenger and their comfort is just as important as yours, which I hope it is, then this is really the model to go for. It's got all the technology you want, all the extras, all the comfort, heated seats, grips, and there's like a throne behind me that your pillion could ride. If you own a K1600 at the moment, probably the first thing you'll notice is the fact that the rather dated looking dash on the previous bike has been replaced with a whopping 10.25-inch TFT screen. Honestly, it's almost as wide as my teddy back home. Yep, I do need to invest in a new widescreen TV, but it is huge. And if you can tell, hopefully you can tell from the footage, that we've actually got the split screen option on, which means that a phone is connected to the bike and it's showing me basically a sat-nav. So this part of a bike test, a little bit of a shakedown. Haven't ridden this bike before, so initial impressions. Well, always straight away, if I'm looking at a bike that's intended for travel, then I'm thinking seating position. And boy, okay, we're only 5 minutes in, but I think it's going to be a very comfortable day, although we'll report back on that later. You know, it is classic upright touring stance. My legs have got plenty of room, there's no undue pressure on my wrists, my back's nice and straight, and one thing I do have, if you can spot down there, is footboards. Oh, footboards. Call me an old man, but I absolutely adore footboards. You can stretch your legs out. Relax and let the miles disappear. Boy, is it windy here. Woo. Now I've got this big electronic screen up to full. Press of a button it goes down, press of a button it goes up. I'm keeping it up because I'm being battered, and I'm actually regretting the decision to wear a peaked helmet today, but well, when you're in Spain, the sun's shining, it is nice to have a peak sometimes. So when it comes to comfort, yep, the riding position's good. The seat feels wide, comfortable, nicely padded but not too padded. I don't think I'm gonna, well, I don't feel as if I'm sinking into it. I'm gonna reach a hard point. But when it comes to comfort on the highway, well, it's a good opportunity to talk about this electronic suspension. Yes, the K1600 for 2022 has suspension that is electronically adjustable, and it does it automatically. So it's reacting to the lumps and the bumps of the road, the terrain, but also according to BMW, it reacts to the rider's position as well. It's all very clever stuff. The result at the moment is, okay, cliche alert, but magic carpet like ride. It really is a smooth, relaxed ride. So how about the engine? Well, this is a 6-cylinder engine that makes 160 brake horsepower, which is the same as the previous model K1600, but it makes that power about 1000 RPM lower down the rev range. I think it's 6750. Now, what does that matter, you ask? Well, it just means that it's got more torque, more pulling power lower down. And quite frankly, a bike this big, it's gonna pull like a tractor. And when you're fully loaded with a passenger, with a load of luggage, it weighs well over 300 kilograms anyway. Having that pulling power really is beneficial. But for now, the engine just feels smooth, and why shouldn't it? It's got 6 cylinders, it's a BMW engine. It's been designed for long distance luxury cruising, and well, that's exactly what it seems to be doing. Just eating up the miles on the highway here. You know, I could quite happily do this all day, and that's lucky because I will be. Stops at our first photo stop of the day, and if you can have a look behind me, we've climbed up from the sea, done some highway, gone up a few twisty roads, and now we are at a nice selection of bends, and this is pretty much what a lot of a bike launch is made off of, which is riding up and down twisty pieces of road and getting lots of pictures for magazines, for websites, and some video as well, which we'll put up on YouTube. So we'll probably be here for about 20 minutes or so, and then ride for another hour and stop again somewhere else. But first impressions on this big old bike behind me. Well, it's it's pretty. It's everything you could really expect from a big tourer, in the fact that it's supremely comfortable. It feels a lot lighter than it should, and it has any right to. And well, it's just a very pleasant, enjoyable bike to ride so far. Now, I'm going to admit here, I'm a big fan of big touring bikes. I love the Honda Goldwing. I spent a couple of weeks in Spain riding that. So jumping on a K1600 feels kind of similar to that. It really is just a very pleasant experience. I'm loving the electronic controlled windscreen. I'm actually overheating a little in my lightweight leather jacket, and that's a good sign. And yeah, overall it seems to be a really nice package, and a shout out as well to that engine. Super smooth, super torquey, loads of power in any gear you want. So so far, a thumbs up from me. First impressions are very good, but you know, the proof will be at the end of the day when I jump off it and see how it's performed. There's a bit of rain in the air, so I have put the bike into rain mode, and it has slightly dulled the throttle response. It's by no means night and day, but certainly I'm sure there's a lot of electronic wizardry going on beneath me. But it's not raining that hard, so I'm going to switch to dynamic mode. Now this is, as it suggests, the sportiest, kind of most aggressive version, and immediately you can feel the bike picking up quicker. Yeah, the throttle response is sharper, the acceleration is more instant, and instead of kind of a smooth roll on the throttle, you feel a jolt. Now, it's by no means kamikaze, don't get me wrong, but it's yeah, certainly a little bit more satisfying. We are stuck behind quite a large lorry crawling along, which gives me a perfect opportunity to talk about the low speed handling of the K1600, and do you know what, for a bike of this size, it is very well balanced at low speeds. I just knocked it down into first gear because we really are a walking pace, and we've just gone around a couple of hairpin turns at slow speeds, and the bike just feels planted. It really does. It's not threatening to topple over or anything like that. Now, a lot of the weight is low down because of those 6 cylinders down by my feet, but it's a very easy bike to maneuver around at low speeds. I think a good big touring bike, quite honestly, betrays its size, and this bike does it. It doesn't feel like I'm having to manhandle 300 plus kilograms of motorcycle. It's yeah, it's nicely done. I've also found out how to use the stereo. Connected up, well actually I've connected up the radio. If I use the wonder wheel to turn the volume up, not sure if you're going to be able to hear that. I've got some sort of Spanish music playing. I'm not quite sure what, I have to admit. It just sounds like a noise at the moment, so I'm going to turn that off. Alright, there's enough playing around. I better concentrate on where I'm going.
I came from the mud, there's dirt on my hands. Strong like a tree, there's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon.
To sum up the K1600 after this first ride, well, I think in terms of, let's take comfort first. It's a long distance touring bike. Yep, this bike is supremely comfortable, particularly the Grand America version that I'm riding. It's a cross between a tourer and a cruiser. You sit back, relax. It's almost like being in an armchair, to be honest with you, and your passenger will also feel like she's in an armchair. So if 2-up comfort over long distances is important to you, you know, the bike ticks that box, and it's aided by silky smooth suspension, which adjusts electronically as you ride along, and a buttery smooth, not silky smooth, a buttery smooth, a very smooth engine. There's just pretty much zero vibration and zero fatigue from riding this thing in terms of any vibes. And then the engine, well, I think the engine's going to be down to personal preference. It's a big 6-cylinder engine. It makes 160 brake horsepower. It's connected to a shaft drive, which is great for touring. It's, as I said, very smooth, not as engaging as the Boxer Twin you'll find on the likes of the RT or the R1250 GS. I personally miss the punch of acceleration. I miss the character of the Twin, and while I do enjoy how smooth this bike is to ride, and I completely get over 400-500 mile days crossing continents on high speed roads, it will come into its own. I'm not feeling particularly engaged with it, particularly when doing overtakes on the motorways. I want, from a 1649cc engine, I'm looking for a punch of acceleration to do what I want it to do, particularly if I've got a passenger on the back and some luggage, and it doesn't quite do that. But again, personal preference. So if you're thinking of buying a big touring bike from BMW, you know, test ride the RT, test ride the K1600. It's why they make both bikes, to give you the option. The brakes, yeah, the brakes are, to use a well-worn phrase, pretty smooth, pretty progressive. They do a damn good job of stopping this leviathan of a bike. Twin discs up front, single finger braking, as you'd expect from a premium BMW bike. It's pretty much nailed. As I mentioned earlier, shaft drive, ideal for long distance touring, no faffing with the train. Good sized fuel tank, you know, should get you 250 miles between fill-ups, depending on how you ride. So we're heading back towards the hotel and nearing the end of this launch of the K1600. And it's been a, do you know what, it feels like it's been a long day actually. We've put in a fair amount of riding, quite a few photo and video stops, but yeah, a decent amount of riding in between to give us a chance to get to know the bike, and a bit of a mix as well. A nice bit of motorway, highway riding, which I think is important to do on a bike like this if you're trying to review it, and a fair amount of nice kind of meandering twisty stuff as well, which if you've got a touring bike, chances are you're going to be heading to the Alps or the Pyrenees or similar. So kind of overall impressions, it's a very impressive machine. BMW have built a very capable, comfortable, powerful long distance touring bike. Over the last hour we've been riding roads a bit like this. We've actually slowed down now to make sure everyone's together, probably because there's a turning coming up or something like that, and the bike really does feel good actually. It just feels at home, you know. It's certainly not a bike I'd choose to make as my first choice to do a load of twisty roads, but I think one of the biggest compliments I could give to it is that I'm actually forgotten what I'm riding for a while back there, and I've just been enjoying the roads, which, you know, probably isn't the best thing to do on a bike launch, but come on, give me 10 minutes to switch off and enjoy riding in Spain.
Talking of switching off, it was at this point in the ride that my microphone stopped working. So now it's a week or so after the press launch, and it's given me a chance to reflect on BMW's flagship Tourer as I write my full review for Adventure Bike Rider magazine. But basically, to sum up, it is an extremely capable long-distance touring machine, packed with all the technology you could want to make covering big miles a hugely relaxed affair. You know, here you've got an adaptive headlight, reverse gear, active suspension, heated seats and grips, keyless ride, a sound system, the list goes on. But I think more importantly than that is that the K1600 handles exceptionally well for such a large machine, and the Grand America version I rode is one of the most comfortable bikes I have ever ridden, hands down. If you're thinking about buying one though, I would strongly recommend test riding the 4 different models. For example, the GT version, I jumped on that during one of the photo runs, and immediately I was actually quite surprised how different it felt. The seat height is taller, and it pushed me a little bit further towards the bars in very much a sports touring position. Now that's as opposed to the Grand America I mostly rode, which very much had a laid-back cruiser vibe. The K1600 is a sensational motorcycle and one of the most well-equipped 2-up Tourers I have ever ridden. Honestly, I'd had no qualms about getting my wife, packing up some luggage and disappearing across Europe this summer. I'd really love to.